Hey guys, it's Sublime Tales, bringing you the best of Reddit stories. Hit that like and subscribe button for more stories. Aita for not letting my brother and his new wife stay at my vacation home after they disinvited me from their wedding. I never imagined I'd be in this situation with my brother, the person I've always been closest to in my family. Growing up, we were inseparable, whether it was building forts in the backyard, playing video games late into the night, or supporting each other through the ups and downs of life. So, when he told me he was getting married, I was over the moon for him. I wanted to do everything I could to make sure his special day was perfect. That's why, when they started planning the wedding, I offered to help out in any way I could. My brother's fiancée, Amanda, seemed nice enough, though I didn't know her all that well. She was a bit more reserved than I expected, but I figured it was just wedding stress. We all know how intense that can be. As the months passed, I found myself getting more involved in the planning than I anticipated. I offered to host the rehearsal dinner at my place, help them choose the venue, and even introduce them to the caterer who had done wonders at one of my work events. My brother and Amanda seemed grateful for all the help, and I felt like I was an important part of their big day. I have a vacation home in the mountains, a place I bought a few years ago as a personal retreat. It's my sanctuary, quiet, peaceful, and surrounded by nature. I offered it to my brother and Amanda for their honeymoon as a wedding gift. They loved the idea and thanked me profusely. My brother even mentioned how it would be the perfect place for them to unwind after the craziness of the wedding. The thought of them spending their first days as a married couple in a place that meant so much to me made me happy. I felt like I was contributing to the start of their new life together, and that meant the world to me. Then, about 3 months before the wedding, I got a phone call from my brother. I remember it clearly because it was so out of the blue. I was sitting on my porch, sipping my morning coffee, when he called. His tone was awkward, which was unlike him. "Hey, can we talk?" he asked. "Of course, what's up?" I responded, assuming it was something minor. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. I could hear Amanda in the background, and my brother seemed hesitant to say what he needed to say. "So, we've had to make some changes to the guest list," he finally said. I felt a strange sensation in my chest. "Okay," I said, waiting for him to continue. "It's Amanda's family," he said. "They've added a lot of people, and we're really tight on space now. We had to make some tough decisions, and, well, we had to cut back on a few people." I didn't like where this was going, but I couldn't imagine what he was trying to say. "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He hesitated again, and then it hit me like a ton of bricks. "We had to take you off the list," he said quickly, as if saying it faster would make it less painful. "It's nothing personal. It's just the space issue, and Amanda's family." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own brother, who I'd been so close to my entire life, was telling me I wasn't invited to his wedding. I felt like the wind had been knocked out of me. "Wait, what?" I managed to say. "You're disinviting me? Your own brother?" "It's not like that," he insisted. "It's just that Amanda's family. There are a lot of them, and her parents insisted. It's really out of my hands." I felt anger rising in me. "So, I'm good enough to help you plan the wedding, but not good enough to be there? You're making this into a bigger deal than it is," he said, sounding annoyed. "It's just one day." "To you, maybe," I shot back. "But this is your wedding. I'm your brother." He didn't have much to say after that. The conversation ended awkwardly, with him promising to make it up to me somehow, but the damage was done. For the next few days, I was in a fog. I couldn't wrap my head around it. I replayed the conversation over and over in my mind, wondering if I had missed something, if there was some way to fix this. I tried to call my brother a few times to talk it over, but he was always too busy or gave me short, dismissive answers. It was clear he didn't want to discuss it any further. I started to question everything. How had I misread the situation so badly? Had I done something to upset Amanda or her family? Why didn't my brother stand up for me? These questions gnawed at me, and the more I thought about it, the angrier I became. My parents were no help. My mom seemed to side with my brother, saying that weddings were stressful and I should just let it go. "It's just a day," she kept saying, echoing my brother's words. "Don't let it ruin your relationship." My dad was more sympathetic. He understood why I was hurt and tried to talk to my brother on my behalf, but it didn't change anything. The wedding was going ahead without me, and there was nothing I could do about it. As the wedding date approached, I started to feel a growing sense of resentment. I had given so much to help them, and now I was being excluded. It felt like a slap in the face. Then, About a month before the wedding, I got a text from my brother. "Hey, just confirming we'll be using the vacation home from June 5th to 12th. Thanks again for letting us use it." I stared at the message in disbelief. Was he serious? He had just disinvited me from his wedding, and now he expected me to let him and Amanda stay in my vacation home as if nothing had happened? The audacity of it left me speechless. At first, I didn't respond. I didn't know what to say. But the more I thought about it, the more it became clear that I couldn't let this go. I wasn't just going to roll over and pretend like everything was fine. After a few days of mulling it over, I decided to confront him. I called him up, and he answered after a few rings. "Hey," he said casually, as if everything was normal. "Hey," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "I got your message about the vacation home." "Yeah, thanks again for letting us use it," he said, oblivious to the tension in my voice. "I'm going to have to say no," I said firmly. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "What?" he finally said, sounding confused. I said no. "You can't use the vacation home." "What do you mean, no? We've been planning this for months." "And you disinvited me from your wedding," I shot back. He sighed. "Are you seriously still upset about that? I told you it wasn't personal." "It doesn't matter," I said. "You cut me out of your wedding, so I'm cutting you off from the vacation home. It's that simple." "That's petty, and you know it," he snapped. "Maybe it is," I admitted. "But I don't feel comfortable letting you stay there after what you did. Find somewhere else to go." He was furious. He called me every name in the book and accused me of being childish and vindictive. But I stood my ground. I wasn't going to let him walk all over me and then expect me to do him a favor. After that conversation, things between us got even worse. My brother stopped talking to me altogether, and I heard through the grapevine that they had to scramble to find a new honeymoon spot. My mom was livid with me for stirring the pot and causing more drama, while my dad remained supportive but distant. It felt like the whole family was divided over this. The wedding came and went, and I didn't hear a word from my brother. I saw pictures on social media, and it stung to see all the happy faces and realize I wasn't a part of it. But I tried to remind myself that this was his choice, not mine. For weeks after the wedding, the silence between us continued. I wondered if our relationship was permanently damaged, or if we could ever get back to the way things were. Part of me wanted to reach out, to try to mend things, but another part of me felt too hurt and betrayed to make the first move. As the months passed, I started to reflect more on what had happened. I realized that my anger wasn't just about the wedding. It was about feeling unappreciated and taken for granted. I had always been there for my brother, and it hurt to see how easily he could cast me aside when it suited him. I began to question whether our relationship had been as strong as I thought. Had I been blind to the signs that he didn't value me as much as I valued him? Or was this just a one-time thing, a result of the stress and pressure of the wedding? These thoughts kept me up at night, and I found myself cycling between sadness and anger. In the meantime, life went on. I threw myself into work, trying to distract myself from the situation with my brother. My friends noticed that something was off. But I didn't feel like explaining the whole story to them. It was too personal, too painful. Instead, I kept it to myself, replaying the events in my mind, wondering if I had done the right thing by standing my ground. Then, about 6 months after the wedding, something unexpected happened. I received a letter in the mail. It was from my brother. The envelope was thick, and my name was written in his familiar handwriting. I hadn't heard from him since our last conversation, so my heart pounded as I opened the letter. Inside was a long, handwritten note. My brother explained that he had been doing a lot of thinking since the wedding and realized he had made a mistake. He apologized for how he had treated me, admitting that he had let Amanda's family pressure him into decisions that he knew weren't right. He said he felt terrible for disinviting me and for expecting me to just go along with everything afterward. He wrote about how much our relationship meant to him and how he missed having me in his life. He said that Amanda also regretted how things had turned out, and that they both wanted to find a way to move forward and heal the rift between us. He didn't expect me to forgive him right away, but he hoped we could start talking again and work toward rebuilding our relationship. As I read his words, I felt a mix of emotions, relief, sadness, and hope. It wasn't easy to forgive him, but the fact that he had taken the time to write such a heartfelt apology meant a lot to me. I realized that while I was hurt, I didn't want to lose my brother over this. Family is complicated, but it's also important, and I knew that if I didn't try to repair things now, I might regret it later. A few days after receiving the letter, I decided to reach out to my brother. I called him, and he picked up almost immediately. There was a moment of awkward silence before he spoke. "Hey," he said, his voice hesitant. "Hey," I replied. "I got your letter." "Yeah. I'm really sorry, man," he said. "I screwed up." I took a deep breath. "I know you did. But I appreciate the apology. It means a lot." We talked for a while, and it was clear that both of us had been carrying a lot of pain and regret. He explained more about the pressure he felt from Amanda's family and how he had been trying to keep everyone happy, but in doing so, he had hurt the person who mattered the most to him. I listened, and while it didn't erase the hurt, it helped me understand where he was coming from. Eventually, we agreed to meet up and talk things through in person. We decided to spend a weekend together at my vacation home, just the two of us, away from everything else, where we could really reconnect. It felt symbolic, like a chance to start fresh. When we finally met at the vacation home, it was a little awkward at first. We hadn't seen each other in months, and there was a lot of tension between us. But as the weekend went on, we started to find our rhythm again. We talked about everything: the wedding, the fallout, our childhood, and our hopes for the future. We laughed, we argued, and we even cried a little. But by the end of the weekend, I felt like we were on the path to healing. It wasn't a quick fix, and it took time for us to fully rebuild our relationship. There were still moments of tension, and I had to work through my feelings of betrayal. But over time, we both made an effort to be more honest with each other and to communicate better. I also got to know Amanda better, and while our relationship was slow to warm up, we eventually found common ground. In the end, I'm glad I didn't let my pride or anger permanently sever my relationship with my brother. What happened hurt, but it also taught me a lot about the importance of boundaries and standing up for myself. I learned that while it's important to be there for the people you love, it's also important to make sure that your own needs and feelings are respected. Now, a year later, my brother and I are closer than we've been in a long time. We've learned to respect each other's boundaries and to be more mindful of how our actions affect those we care about. It wasn't an easy journey, but it was worth it. As for the vacation home, my brother and Amanda have since spent a weekend there, but this time it was different. It wasn't just about them using the space, it was about sharing a place that means so much to me with people who now understand and appreciate its value. We've come full circle, and while the scars from the past remain, they've helped shape a stronger bond between us. So, Aita for not letting my brother and his new wife stay at my vacation home after they disinvited me from their wedding? In hindsight, I don't think I was. I needed to set a boundary and make it clear that their actions had consequences. But I'm also glad that I was eventually able to move past the anger and work toward reconciliation. Sometimes, the hardest thing is finding a balance between standing up for yourself and being open to forgiveness. It's not always easy, but in the end, it's what makes relationships stronger. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed these Reddit stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next one.